Welcome to the program, and thanks for tuning in on this episode where we'll be discussing the Newton City Library Project, among other things, with Newton City Commissioner Rod Kreie. Rod Kreie is not only a Newton City Commissioner, but has worked tirelessly over the years, both locally and abroad with Rotary, a civic organization that promotes the betterment of many people's lives who are the most in need, facing the most difficult of circumstances. Rod has been a past Rotary District Governor, past president for our Newton Rotary Club, member of the Chamber of Commerce, and also known locally as your Peach Guy. We'd like to welcome to the program Rod Kreie, also known locally as the Peach Guy. How are you doing today, Rod?
I'm peachy, Lance. Thank you.
Absolutely. As many of you know, but some may not, Rod is a man I respect greatly. Asked to be my personal mentor a few years back now, and over time have become good friends. Rod knows my passion for Harvey County and Newton, having tried to make a difference here locally for many, many years. Rod and I first met when running for the same office of Newton City Commission and talking in great detail with him about city issues. We've been able to create quite the dialogue between one another, and it's one reason why I've asked him to come to this program today, which he's obviously obliged. So Rod, I'm going to ask a question that everyone in Newton is talking about. Are Newtonians on the hook for a possible $5 million or more to pay for the Newton Public Library?
It's not a... No, we can stop that project anytime. We have no intention, nor are we talking about doing that at this point in time. You know, one of the things in any project, and I'm involved in several different projects, so I sat back and watched construction costs go up, and I imagine, we're working real close with the committee that does the library, whatever they call that committee. I imagine it's the new library
Newton
committee,
Library Board,
perhaps. Yeah. But anyway, they're a good group of guys. They're passionate about libraries, and I would have to think that there's a point in time. You know, what we did this last go around actually is engage the architect, because we're getting to that point in the project where we have to, before we can solicit or the committee can solicit bigger dollars. They want to be able to answer all of their questions. So how much is it going to cost? And if we have to pare things back, what do we pare back? And will there be a point there where we have to regroup and see if we can't figure out, something different? So at any point in time in that process, I mean, it's like anything you do big for your community. You just have to stay on top of it, and someone may have to raise more money than anticipated if costs have gone up enough that they have to start cutting things out that they really want. Then I would think it would be a sad deal to end up with something that didn't fulfill the library's mission for years to come. So the commission's working with them. We have a great relationship with that committee, and we communicate well with each other. So the answer, obviously that was the long answer.
Yeah.
But the short answer is, we can regroup anytime. We can stop. We can slow down. But I'm sure that we're going to keep moving forward to have a library. It just may take a little bit longer.
I've heard a lot of discussion about that there's different phases that we're going through. And it seems every time the city commission votes to move into the next phase, then the same thing is said. We're on the hook for this $5 million. So as you expressed earlier, no, we're not. But can you tell the audience a little bit about the difference in phases, maybe how many phases there are, and where we are in that transition currently?
I think there's. I place a great deal of faith in committees, and every time we get together, they tell us where they're at. I think there's 3 phases, and I think we just moved into the second phase. I think the first phase of what they were doing was to go around and talk to citizens about donating money for the library. They haven't gone after the big donors yet. But the second phase, they actually need to have numbers or whatever phase they're in. I think it's the second phase. They have to be able to answer those questions again. So that's the phase they're in. The third phase would be, the actual implementation of their plan and starting the construction process, clear through completion. And I think that's the three phases. I may have missed a phase and squeezed two of them together, but
just the understanding that there are multiple phases that we're going through, and just because recently people have heard that the commission voted to move forward the library project doesn't necessarily mean that we're in the end phase of that. We're just moving in the direction that is needed for the program to be planned out.
That's correct.
And eventually come to fruition. I've read a little bit about some stuff that's been said about the amount of money that's raised so far. It said that there's been 1.2 million raised so far by private donors. And a question was asked of me, if for some reason, let's say I was a donor and I donated $100,000 to the project. What happens if we go down this road a little bit and then I make the decision that I'm not going to invest that money any longer? Is there anything that takes place? I mean, are those people or those donors that have been so gracious at this point, are they guaranteed to donate that money, or can they just back out of that?
Well, that's a question that I asked at the last meeting. That the actual head of the company that's helping them with the fundraising is. And I'll shorten it for you. Your question was a lot longer than
the answer
than the answer might be. So I'll paraphrase what you said a little bit. If somebody pledges to give some money, then are they on the hook for that? And the answer is no, they're not. A pledge is not a legal contract. So they're not required to honor that pledge. But history. The question I ask is of all the libraries you've done in the past that you've raised money for, and there's literally, dozens and dozens of them. What is the percentage of people that make a commitment that they don't honor? And he said that it was less than 1%, which is actually, I've been involved in fundraise for different projects for various not-for-profits and colleges that I've been on their boards for, and that's true. If somebody makes a pledge, they always honor that pledge. I've never seen instances this, and actually this, if a person makes a smaller pledge, they're less apt to honor it. All the big pledges follow through on what, unless they die or something weird happens, but so I don't perceive that to be a problem.
Okay, so normally when people pledge, they hold up to their end of the bargain.
Do.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been stated in the past that this conversation about build new, remodel old, that it will cost more to remodel the old building than it would to build a new building. Can you just explain a little bit about how that might be possible to someone asking that question?
Sure. Yeah, I've got a little bit of experience with stuff like that. So there are so many things that are grotesquely bad with the existing library that some of the stuff that you would do, you can't even guarantee that it's going to have a useful life for 10 years. The basement leaks. When it rains, it runs through the cracks in the wall that probably were sealed adequately at the time they built that building, but the way they were sealed, it wasn't sealed for eternity. And to go back in and excavate and do some of that stuff over again. When you add up all the items that would need to be done and still not maybe have the space that they wanted. And when I say space, I don't mean the amount of square feet. I mean the aesthetics and the culture that they're trying to portray. It's a lot harder to do that in an existing in an existing structure. Old structures are really expensive to make new again. It's more times than not easier just to tear them down and start over.
I should know this. I don't know this. I don't know how many people do know this. When was maybe you could answer, how old is our current library? Do you know when it was built originally?
I think I'm older than it is.
Okay.
So, but no, I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay.
Even though they've told me 3 or 4 times.
Just it's old enough.
I think it's maybe somewhere around 40 years or older than 40 years.
So as far as whether we've got our usage out of our library, we've definitely far exceeded expectation.
When you build a building like that, that's kind of what you aim for is 40 years. I mean, they built things better, back in the 1800s and 1900s, because there's a lot of really old buildings that are 100 years old that are in pretty good shape.
This kind of goes over what we've talked about a little bit. I know we've talked about this in the past, and even running for commission in the past, something that we just constantly hear people say, and it's that there's a fear from a lot of people that the commission, of course you weren't on there at this point in time, is going down a road and where we are starting to write checks that we can't cash, so to speak, similar to some of the things that we've had to navigate through, poor decisions in the past that didn't necessarily work out. And is there anything that you can say to somebody that is referencing those times or pointing to, say, the ABI building or some of the industrial park debacle that we've seen that hopefully we're on the rebound with? What can you say to people that are thinking this is just going to turn into another situation where the city's going to put taxpayers on the line for this? We've already discussed the $5 million, but this $5 million, and then our taxes are going to go up.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to be able to pay for it, or it's going to turn into a debacle. What do you say to those people?
Well, it's all about planning. One thing we did early on when I became part of the commission, I don't want to imply that it was just me that helped make this change. I mean, we got great management right now. Is we took a lot of time, taking a look at debt maturities and seeing when things are going to be paid off, and we very strategically. For example, the last Sand Creek Station payment is going to be in 2024, which is kind of what we're aiming for. To bring the new debt on for the library in 2025. Well, the payment on Sand Creek is it's somewhere north of $600,000 a year, and the payment on the library is only going to be somewhere in the low 400s. So we're not doing this just by the seat of our pants. I mean, there's really some careful planning that's gone into it. And if you take a look at we've done a real good job, and our finance department has done a real good job at taking advantage of low interest rates, which thank God we did, because, inflation's starting to go crazy. And I'm sure that those rates are going to start creeping up with the inflation factor that we seem to be experiencing now, but we refinanced all of our old debt without extending maturities. So, I can't remember the exact number, but I think our payments have gone down by somewhere in excess of $1 million a year, which gave us a lot of breathing room to do some other stuff.
That's awesome.
And that may be a little bit high. I have so many numbers in my head that they all seem to kind of jump together, but it's a substantial amount.
And still, by doing that, we're winning. That's a win. That's something that we can look at as a community and say our management of our city did a good job, and that's a win for us.
That's exactly right. Okay. Yeah, and they're constantly looking. Really, commissioners have 2 jobs. to set the budget, and all the decisions evolved around setting the budget. And and we haven't raised the mill levy for 4 years. We're hoping to live off of an increase in valuation. But anyway, that's one of our jobs. The second job is we hire the city manager and the city attorney, and there are 2 employees, and everything else is management's job to manage that from there down. And all the way from finance department to city clerk to city manager to chief of police and fire chief, they're constantly looking for ways that they can get the biggest bang for the buck and still provide the level of service that we're currently providing. So you couple that with the interest savings that we've had and the other strategic things that we've done, and we're not just a little bit confident that the library won't become another snafu. I mean, we're 110% confident.
Very good. One thing that I've heard, a word that I've heard around this, the building of a new library, is that Newton needs this for growth. Newton needs growth to continue to increase the tax base, to be able to have more people paying into the utilities, to make it more comparable to everybody. But when we talk about growth, how does that correlate to you? Where if you were of the mindset that Newton needed to grow and the library was an opportunity to grow Newton, just explain a little bit about how that is in your mind's eye.
Well, I think any commissioner worth their salt understands how important culture is to community growth, and quite frankly, I'm not a library guy. I'm not a dog guy either, so I don't use the dog park. I don't use the library, but I use some of the other stuff that other people don't. And so when you have a company coming to Newton looking for somewhere along the line, and I've done site selection before, so I know how these people think. And they're looking for a culture of success. They're looking for people that are innovative, that find ways of doing things, and that draw people in. Our community, and I certainly don't want to dish any past commissioners, because they all do a great job. Sometimes the stars just don't align, so that you can plan something and then follow through with a process that leads you somewhere. I think we, over the past years, we've made valiant efforts at trying to do things that just didn't work out. And unfortunately, people want to point fingers when that happens. Sometimes things like that just happen. Like in 2007, 2008, there was no way to know that we were going to have an economic downturn that forced companies that were looking at doing things all across the United States. There were projects on the table that literally people just lit fire to and burned them up because those 2 years really took its tolls. But right now, we have great management at the city. I can't say enough about that, and we have commissioners with a common vision. All of us together know where we're going and the path that we're on, and part of that is creating this culture, and the library is just one little element of that. Just like the swimming pool complex that we figured out how to do without an increase in tax,
which is another huge win.
Oh yeah,
that's another huge win for our community.
Yeah.
I can remember that pool had been there for as long as I was a kid, and I'm not old necessarily, but I'm getting up there, and it's
a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yeah,
we've got
we're jogging full speed right now, and I think people in 2 years from now will look back and think, I feel bad that I didn't hop on board a little bit sooner.
Taking kind of going down a path here. I know we've had a lot of discussions, and it seems like social media is the place where people just absolutely want to vent their frustrations about things that they perceive as directions that we've gone that's wrong. I know recently I've read a lot about the new infrastructure going out towards Walmart to build our community. And I would like to say that when people are grossly wrong in that situation, that it's just ignorance, but it's almost like a form of apathy to me. I know that you do your best to communicate with those people effectively, but where do you see us going when you made the comment that the management is moving in one direction, that the commission is moving in direction, there's a vision for our community. How do we get people that I would call just constant naysayers, who most of the time just don't even know what's going on, who's paying for what, where those funds are coming from? And like the library, for instance, I remember hearing, or the pool, for instance, I heard numerous people make the comment that, now we're on the hook for a new pool. And you just have to explain to those people that, no, actually, that's not the case. We did well with your finances, and this is not coming out of your pocket. This is just a benefit that's value added to our community from monies that we had available at that time. So how do we get people, Newtonians, on board with this vision that we have going forward as a community for things like the library, for things like the pool?
Well, I think that it's up to all of us as citizens that enjoy living here to voice our opinions too. One thing that's kind of cool about what's going on right now, and I think of one particular string on I think it's the What's Happening in Newton. I have no plans of running again. I'll be on the commission again for like another almost 4 years. So I'm going to be, I don't really want to call it challenge people. I think it's important for us I don't really want to feel like I'm engaging them either. I just want to get the right information out there. I am amazed how hard it is to get information to people, because I would tell you, I've done business with lots of cities from a consulting standpoint, and this is my second time being, I was a councilman in Ulysses, and here I'm a commissioner in Newton. And it's amazing to me how hard it seems to be for people to find good information, and how long they'll lock on to things that have happened in the past that are really irrelevant. I mean, the ABV building didn't pan out. We call that Building V now, because
ABI.
ABI, yeah. But it didn't work out. Maybe someone screwed up, maybe they didn't. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I wasn't on the commission when that happened, but we have to deal with that. I mean, it's not like I can run and get elected and then say, oh, I'm going to put this off to the side because that wasn't my deal. I mean, I get elected and it's my deal, whether or not it, I had anything to do with it or not. But getting the information to them it really seems to be difficult. And I think that our city management and our commissioners are probably the most transparent group of politicians / management I've ever been around. We don't try to hide anything. Yeah. And we're all real accessible, but yet I read on Facebook. I don't let it bother me, and I don't dwell on it. But in these last 4 years that I'm going to be a commissioner, I really want to set some of those people straight. Like I got people that complain about roundabouts. Well, we got roundabouts on that south end of town deal, and we wouldn't have got the state funding if we hadn't left the roundabouts in there.
Which they paid for a majority.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were planning on that being like a $3 million project, and I think the number that's in my head, I think the state paid for like 1.7.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal. You start breaking that down into mills.
Yeah.
And making payments on it, and that's probably 3 or 4 mills a year for 25 years. You know?
And I look at that stuff and I see that as a win. I'm looking for ways that my community is winning, and it seems like we're starting, in my opinion, to move in that direction. And something that I don't understand when it comes to apathy is, just speaking from my own personal experience, there has never been a question that I couldn't ask, that I couldn't call up to the city and get information for, that I couldn't contact a commissioner who wouldn't respond to me for, and that information is just not there. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
So the utility bill I covered, all that information was public information.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I would say that from my personal experience, I've not had a very difficult time finding the information because it's available.
Yeah.
And so when people come...
And you're not special.
And I'm not even smart.
No, I think you're smart, but we treat you the same way that everybody else
it's
treated.
no different. I mean, if you have a question and you want to find out something about the library, the phase, what's going on with the pool, I can remember running for election, and at one point in time, I kept hearing people ask me why the city of Newton spent money on their military style vehicle, and we just don't need that in this community.
Yeah.
And it baffled me how people were unaware of the fact that the Newton City Police Department had nothing to do with that. That wasn't a city issue. It was a county issue, and I'm pretty sure it was all paid for by grant funding.
100% paid for by grant.
So it didn't cost anybody any money.
No.
We qualified because of our crime statistics, I believe.
And the argument against that is that somebody paid for that.
Yeah.
Well, somebody else it was going to be paid for anyway, so it might as well be. And the cool thing is we share that with other communities around.
Yes.
If they have a problem, we're there to help. Same way with us. That's the way life should be.
Moving back to the library, a question that I was thinking about asking when we were gearing up to do this interview was, if we broaden our focus and understand that not only Newtonians would be using the library, but Hestonians, Waltonians, and essentially most of Harvey County, is there any ways for those entities, both great or small, to help contribute financially to the project, or are there limitations for them doing so?
Well, that's another question I asked here, maybe 2 years ago, year and a half maybe. There are what's called library districts, the way I understand it. And I do think that the communities that are in our library district actually do contribute.
Okay.
And I don't have the numbers. I can get you numbers if you want me to, but it would be unfair, to have other citizens, have access to it, complete access to it, and not be paying in some fashion. And that was the reason I asked the question. I was satisfied somewhat, but I can get those numbers if the people are interested, and we'll figure that out.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. Is there a point where you would say, no, I'm not moving forward when it comes to finances? On
the library?
Yeah, I know that in some cases, let's say people will have this philosophy of, we need a new library, and even though the situation gets worse, let's say financially for us as we move forward, that we are just adamantly about having a new library, that sometimes common sense, or let's just say what we had initially planned we'd pay for it, has just grown. So we just continue down this path. Is there a point where you personally, as a commissioner, would say, I don't think that I'm going to move forward at this time because the finances are not there or are not right?
Yes, there is. And you probably want me to tell you what that point is.
Well, I mean, is it something that's evolving? I mean,
No, it isn't.
You know,
For me, it's as simple as we committed a certain amount, and I don't remember that amount off the top of my head, but we're not likely to go even 15 cents above that. So it'd be a matter of taking a look at what the committee raises, the committee that's soliciting funds. And if they don't hit their number, then they'll have to pare the library back, and or keep going until they raise that amount. Newton has a history of being able to come up with the money to do things like this. And you know, as a commissioner, I'm really impressed that the library, you know, jumped in there and said, "Hey, we'll go raise some money." I mean, that was a commitment that I was glad to hear. I think you'll find other communities in the future, when it comes to amenities like this, trying to get some of the people in the community that are able to help and that have an interest. I think you're going to see that happening more and more. And the only other alternative would be to raise the taxes to pay for things like this. So I would think we'd have to have a serious discussion then if the building costs go through the roof, and they have to pare things down. Is that really what they want to end up with? And I think at that point in time, since we have an old building, that they just have to keep shagging contributions until that, and that's why we, you know, brought the architect in, because we need a number now.
Something kind of moving down that path a little bit more. To talk about usage, we raised the money for this library. We have the financial ability to invest in it and build a new one. Then comes the person that asked the question: how often do people actually use a library?
Yeah.
And libraries are a thing of the past. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that.
I get that.
The idea that people go to a brick and mortar location to check out a paperback or a hardback book is not really where it's at. But my question is the plan for this library to be a where there's more that takes place there than just going and checking out a book?
That's already happening, really. You know, whenever there's a big project like this, I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I spend a lot of time actually digging into usage and stuff like that. I spent quite a bit of time just sitting outside the library and at different times on different days, and just to see how much it's used, and especially on weekends. And you know, being a guy that and I've got a story about why I don't use libraries that goes clear back to third grade, that I can share with you personally sometime, but I don't really think that the public cares to hear about my checkered past. Yeah,
the library past.
Yeah, my library past, but anyway,
I'm interested now on that.
Yeah,
we're gonna have
to. I'll tell you, and if people want to send me a note on Facebook, I'll even tell them. But anyway, I was amazed how many people go in and out of that library, you know, and I don't know what they did when they were in there, but they go in and you know, they're in there for some of them an hour, some of them 15 minutes, some of them 10 minutes, some of them 2.5 hours. And, you know, if I've had them show me around, I mean, there's a lot of things that people can do when they're in there, all the way from checking out audiobooks to use of a computer, because you'd be surprised how many people, even in today's age with at-home learning, going through that last year, that don't have internet that's readily accessible. So I'm convinced that the library will be well used.
Yeah, very good.
Not by me.
Well, see, and that's kind of takes it back to the fact that I was leading me into another question. We already covered it in the past, is that just because I don't use it, just because I may think as an individual, which not myself, but just because you or I don't use the library doesn't mean the library doesn't get used. So that's for correct. Somebody who might be a naysayer towards this going forward, because they don't see the value added benefit, does not mean that there's not a huge population in our community that does.
That's correct.
So
it's a little bit selfish, if you're not using it and you say, I don't want to pay for it because you're doing something that somebody else is paying for and not using too. I mean, we're all in this together.
Yes. It's a community. Imagine that. Just broadening our scope a bit, we can continue to talk about the library and incorporate that, but just getting down to the measure of what kind of man you are, I'd like to ask you a few more questions. What is the number one issue you see facing Newtonians right now?
Well, for me, this has been really a fun ride. I mean, how many times can you hook in to a community you've only lived in for 12 years and feel like you made a positive change? I'll segue into what I think the number one problem is. I think the number one problem is people have become real content with the thought that living in Newton sucks.
Sadly.
And it may suck for them. It doesn't suck for me. I mean, I like it here. I've got a lot of really good friends, and I see a lot of positive things happening in Newton right now that other people just aren't seeing. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because they're not in a position to see it, or they don't want to see it, or it makes them feel better to grumble all the time. But that type of an attitude, that's why I'm getting more involved in trying to communicate with those people. I went for a long time and thought, it's not worth doing that. But I think it's so important that people know that things are changing and that they can help. They can be a part of the team instead of naysayers without having. They really pile on, and they don't have the facts. They're not willing to look for the facts, and I find it really sad that people that have lived here for a long time just think it won't ever change when it already has, and it's really in a good trajectory right now. So I think the number one problem is I don't call it apathy. I think everybody's really busy. And they kind of get used to, just looking at certain things, and they don't ever allow themselves to be exposed to some of the good things that are happening. And I'm really going to make an effort to try to change that for the next 3 or 4 years.
And just talking about people, I was always told that you can look at a glass, we all know this analogy, but you can look at the glass half full or half empty. Yeah. And something that I personally see is that there's a lot of people who are pro-positive about the direction that we're moving, are informed about the direction that we're moving as a community. But then there's other people, as we call them, we'll just call them the naysayers, that just have a perpetual negative attitude about what's going on.
Sure.
And it's difficult when trying to bring our community together when there is an element of people that just will not agree that we are moving in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very disheartening, and it's a difficult thing that difficult hurdle we have to get over.
I don't think we should ever let it hold us back, but the weird thing about this deal is they're complaining about how bad things are because they remember things that have happened in the past that are bad, and making, for example, the other day, I don't spend all day on. I spend about 10 minutes a day on Facebook just looking for things that I can, make comment on. But someone was looking at moving here from somewhere, I think Oklahoma, maybe down in Texas, and they posted on one of the Newton pages. I'm thinking about moving there. They didn't want to move any further north than Newton, but Wichita or Newton, tell me why I should be in one over the other. And man, the Newton people just, there was a lot of people that said, hey, Newton's a great town.
Yeah.
But yeah, it led off with the naysayers, whatever you do, don't move here, and it's like, man, I could give you 1,000 reasons to move here right now. And people just they just need to be more aware. Are our taxes too high? I think they are. Yeah. And we've stopped them from going up.
Yeah.
And the only way to get taxes back down is to increase your tax base. It's simple math. And here's the sad truth is when people are like that, I've done this site selection stuff before. I mean, people looking at moving here see stuff like that, and then they got to decide how big a problem it is or not before they choose another community over us or us over another community. And here they are saying how bad Newton is, and they're becoming a big part of the problem when they do that.
Well, it moves, that kind of moves into another thing that I always ask. It's like my radar I use when I have in here people saying negative things about our community is, well, what have you done to invest?
Yeah.
And it goes back to like the skate park. We worked together on a skate park deal, and the skate park is a place that a lot of people use. Not everybody uses it, but people use it, and it had kind of just gotten put to the side for a period of time, and going down there and my children using it and seeing that as a need that or a place that needed a little bit of TLC, I reached out. We got together, other people got on board, and there's been some major improvements that have taken place to that, and so if I wanted to comment about the skate park, I feel like I could make comments about the skate park because I went down there and I personally invested in that place. Yeah. And I see both the things that are a struggle there. I see the improvements that still have yet to be made, but I also weigh that with the improvements that we've made. Yeah. And so I always ask the question when it comes to it, and I think people that are listening just need to understand that the first checkoff that needs to go through your mind when you see somebody speaking negatively about our community is, what have they done to make the community better?
Yeah.
And if they have done nothing to make the community better, then does what they say really hold any water? And I personally don't think that it does.
Some of them have some valid complaints.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it looks to me like they're just venting.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think people will find out about me, you found that out with the skateboard park. I mean, we knew each other pretty well, but you came to me with a problem, and between Rotary grants and a little bit of human.
Personally, people donated money and stuff to it. Leroy
Next
King
thing you know,
donated
we're pouring concrete, and the cool thing about it is the way we brought the kids into it to where they feel like they had a say in the deal.
They're participatory,
and I think that's the key to anything you do is the same thing happened at the swim pool complex. You get enough people involved, and I had somebody say one time, they said, well, why didn't we get to have any input into the swimming pool? And it's like, you only had maybe, 30 or 40 chances,
Yeah.
I mean, just because they didn't notice doesn't mean that they didn't have the opportunity. It's been on our city Facebook page, and I mean, we try real hard to connect in any way that we can, but people have to make the effort too.
You know, I've almost religiously showed up for the last 3 years to every single city commission meeting there is, and tried to make all the other. If I'm not there personally, I'm watching it on Facebook or something. I've been tapping into the resources that are available to everyone. And something that I find very interesting, I take it back to APTI, we talked a little bit about that, is that I think of the 3 years, there maybe have been 4 or 5 Newtonians that go to the city commission meetings.
Yeah.
And so there is a huge, once again, I use the word apathy, but for people that want to be involved, it's there for them to be involved in. For the information, it's there. People can access that information. Sure. Sometimes it takes you a little bit more time than others, but it's not like you all are not accessible to people. It's not like you haven't done your part in being able to provide that information, public information, for people to learn about it, take their time, educate themselves, and understand what's going on. And I think the library is another situation that we're in. I know personally that I hear a lot of negativity. Maybe my ear is inclined to pick up on that negativity, but with all of the stuff that people had been talking about, and I just knew that I can't tackle every single conversation there is when it comes to the library. I know that this information is there for people to understand, and that commissioners are there for you to contact and ask questions about. I know that the library board has meetings that people can go to and learn about and understand, and so it's for me difficult. You know, that's why we're doing this right now, Rod. Yeah. That's why our topic was on the library today. It's a hot button issue for Newtonians, and people are making the decision about whether they want to get behind this or not get behind this, or whether it's beneficial for our community or not. And I just don't understand why it's more opinion based without fact behind it. Yeah. You know, so as far as that library is concerned, you know, I know that Rod can be contacted and questions asked of him. I know that you've engaged with people, and I know that this conversation with the library is continuing to go forward. But I want to say to the people listening, you know, you need to get your facts straight. And I can say that because I got my facts straight, and I still am evolving on my opinion moving forward, because I'm a person that trusts and verifies, or I'm a person that is realizing that things are changing. I mean, when we're talking about inflation and the knowledge that building costs are going up, that's something that I'm really having a struggle with right now, is knowing that even though we projected this many millions of dollars so many years ago for this project, it's going to cost more than that. I know that. Yeah. So I'm really looking for, well, how are we going to navigate that going forward? Is there really going to be a push for people in the community to contribute, which I'm hopeful that there is, but all of those things are evolving. So this information is continuously evolving, just like the ABI versus the ABV building.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to get personal on you now.
Okay.
Okay. What's one thing your dad or mom taught you growing up that you will never forget?
Oh gosh. Well, my dad was into servant leadership, even when they didn't call it that. You know, he was Mr. Little League Baseball for years and years, and I remember my dad telling me, you know, back when I was in high school, you know, I mean, as kids, you have a tendency to complain too. You know, I mean, you're kind of wanting life to be perfect, and you have rules and other stuff like that.
Yeah, who wants rules?
From administrators that back then you thought they were stupid and didn't know what they were doing. But you know, as you grow older, you realize they were a lot smarter than you think. But anyway, he said to me, he says, you know, if you're going to complain about it, just shut up unless you're willing to get involved to change it. And that really stuck with me. And I think that's, you know, I mean, watching him in Little League Baseball, you know, he just was a great guy and well respected, but people just really looked up to him. That had a big impact on me. And so I mean, my senior year of high school, I was president of the senior class and president of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I mean, I started getting involved early. I think I was that's maybe 25 when I was president of the chamber in Ulysses. I got to be master of ceremonies at the Home Products Dinner, which is a big deal out there. And I got to sit next to Governor John Carlin. You know, I mean, stuff like that it just made an impact on me. And getting involved with Rotary, my desire to make the world a better place, it just became part of my DNA. And every day I try to do something that makes the world a better place. So I think my dad saying get involved if you want to change the world for the better, you know, that get active. That's a lot better than just bitching about it. So
very good. As we wrap up this week's segment, we'll do as we always do and recap the conversation we just had. Rod, here's your chance to speak directly into the homes, hearts, and minds of everyone listening. Giving you the chance to have the final say. What do you have to say to us, Rod?
Oh, gosh. I would have to say that together we can do more. That sounds really simple, but you know, I've been in communities before. I look at Derby as kind of being one of these. They really have it going on. Everybody kind of enjoys living there. You very seldom hear anybody complain about anything there. They have a cool swim pool complex. They've got a dinosaur park, and their schools have been renovated. And you know, when you say Derby and when you say Newton, you know, people can think what they want, but there isn't any reason that Newton can't aspire to do better to where they're more noticeable. So I think you know, we talked about the library and got into some data a little bit, but through all of that was the thread. You know, people need to get involved. I think if everybody did something, Newton is a very benevolent town, but if every day you would do something for somebody else that matters, it may only take 5 minutes, or spend that 5 minutes trying to, you know, like if you're mad about something, you know, spend that 5 minutes trying to figure out if there's a different angle, or send me an email or get on my city commissioner Facebook page and ask a question. I mean, you don't have to be mad. I think if everybody contributes to the culture that we're trying to advance here in Newton, and all of the city commissioners are on the same page there. We all feel like we've made tremendous progress in getting noticed by people that are paying attention, and God only knows we've had lots of attaboys and I mean, from the business community, companies in town that have noticed that things have changed, and that Newton is really is, you know, on a great trajectory. I mean, hop on the bus, and you know, if some of these naysayers that are still complaining about things that happened 20 years ago or 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I mean, let's enjoy turning the ship around instead of sailing over the edge of the cliff. You know, I mean, we're in some pretty calm water right now. Financially, the city's as strong as it's been for a long time. Fiscal management is really at a high level now. You know, we're not crossing our fingers that something bad doesn't happen. I mean, we're doing all the right things, and still way more negativity than we should have for where we're at right now. I would have to say, if anybody gleaned anything out of this conversation, it would be my invitation to them to try to enjoy it more and figure out what's really happening. It's not perfect, never will be perfect, and sometimes things are going to happen you don't like. But we're on a great trajectory right now. So let's just enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, straight from the mouth of one commissioner to your eyes and ears, answering the questions we all want answered by a voice that's in the know. Appreciate you, Rod.
Yeah, thank you, Lance.
Thank you for coming and having a conversation with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Many more.